my life felt like a hamster wheel of those two, raising capital to fuel growth, to raise more capital to fuel more growth, and ultimately building something that customers really loved and were extremely loyal to. And then we sold the business to Walmart you know this story well.
Yeah.
Like you were literally there like second by second in the fall of 2018. And that was, and then I spent 4 years at Walmart running ELOQUII, as well as for the last part of my time there, running Walmart's first ever vertically integrated brand, which is an apparel brand called Free Assembly.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The 2%. I'm your host, Anu Duggal, founding partner at Female Founders Fund. Today, I'm excited to welcome serial entrepreneur Mariah Chase to the studio. Mariah is currently CEO and co-founder of Ekyam.ai, and we at Female Founders Fund are thrilled to have backed both Ekyam and her prior startup, ELOQUII, which was acquired by Walmart in 2016. So with that, let's get into it. This season of The 2% is brought to you by JP Morgan. JP Morgan has teams to support you at every stage of your growth. As former founders who have worked in local markets themselves, the bankers at JP Morgan bring deep sector knowledge and lived experiences to their clients. JP Morgan can help you navigate complexity with confidence, backed by real-world insights and an entrepreneurial perspective. Get what your startup needs now at jpmorgan.com/grow-without-limits. JP Morgan is the bank of the innovation economy. Is female. This is The 2% by Female Founders Fund. We're funding the future. Hi, Mariah. So excited to have you on today.
Hi, Anu. I'm very happy to be here.
So Mariah and I have known each other now forever, I guess since 2014. So that qualifies.
Yeah, maybe 2014.
Yeah.
Even 2013.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Before we invested in ELOQUII. So excited to have you on here today. We are going to start by really rewinding and taking a step back and looking at where you started with ELOQUII. So tell us about that story, what that path looked like, and how it brought us to where we are today with middleware.
Yeah, exactly. A long and winding road. So ELOQUII was back in 2013, actually right before you and I first met. I had come off of doing another startup. I was quote unquote looking for my next thing and came across this opportunity of a brand called ELOQUII that had been essentially at that point in time was a distressed asset of the Limited. So Limited had owned it, started it, and then ceremoniously, very quickly shut it down. But it had this extremely loyal customer base who was clamoring for it to be resurrected in some way. And so I was really lucky to find it, really lucky to come on as a CEO and co-founder of what essentially at the time was like a bunch of assets, right? We had a buyer file, we had a hard drive of all of these designs, but ELOQUII was the idea was to serve women sizes 14 and up, trend right, professional, well-fitting apparel, and talk to them and market them in a way that was just like a fashion brand that happened to start at a different size. And so we relaunched the brand in early 2014 and then began the journey of a cycle of growth and capital raising. That's what my life felt like, a hamster wheel of those two, raising capital to fuel growth, to raise more capital to fuel more growth, and ultimately building something that customers really loved and were extremely loyal to. And then we sold the business to Walmart you know this story well.
Yeah.
Like you were literally there like second by second in the fall of 2018. And that was, and then I spent 4 years at Walmart running ELOQUII, as well as for the last part of my time there, running Walmart's first ever vertically integrated brand, which is an apparel brand called Free Assembly, which was in 1,000 doors. So
amazing! What a journey. I think what's interesting to me is that, prior to ELOQUII, you had also been a co-founder, you'd sold a company to QVC, and you really had, I'm sure, a plethora of opportunity. what was it about ELOQUII, and we'll talk about this with Ekyam as well, that really kind of drove home, how exciting and, important the opportunity was for you?
Yeah, I think that so about a year before I came across ELOQUII, I would see like in magazines, back when magazines were like still a thing, um, I would see pages devoted to quote unquote the plus customer, like a page. And that felt very novel and kind of pathetic at the same time. And it made me think in that year leading up, like I'd worked in fashion for a really long time. I'd sat in meetings with Oscar de la Renta and Monique Lhuillier and all of these different designers. And that customer was never a conversation, like not even part of the lexicon. And when when ELOQUII got presented to me, or I should rather say, like I chased after it like a dog with a bone, I started to do research about the market and who the customer was. And at that point in time, it was 67% of America are women over the age of 18. I don't know now with GLP-1s
Yeah.
I knew it grew up to sort of post 70%. I don't know where it stands today, but no matter what, it's an extremely significant part of the US female apparel customer base. And it just lit up my instincts. Like the data was there, but more than anything else, I was like, this is super interesting. There were customers that loved this, i.e., they had product market fit in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm pretty sure I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I can't sleep, so I'm going to do this.
I love that. I love that. It's so true. Like often with some of the best companies we invest in or the founders that we're so motivated or moved by, it's truly, I just cannot stop thinking about this particular person or opportunity. So totally get it. So here we are today. Mariah is our second time FFF founder, which is super exciting. And, you're back with a pretty different business opportunity,
Just
which,
a little.
I think is great, positions you to really leverage the knowledge and the pain point being in retail, being a leader in retail and kind of translating that into this kind of bridge that we're looking at from an AI platform perspective. Mm-hmm. And so what was that journey like to get here?
Real unexpected. So my co-founder, who I'll probably mention a couple of times, so we'll name him now, Abhi. He had been the director of technology, head of technology at the first startup I did that we sold to QVC. And to be clear, we sold it to QVC because of the technology he created, which was very bleeding edge and very novel and thoughtful in its time. And he pinged me in early 2024, spring of 2024, and he was like, I'm leaving Tory Burch. He was the global head of technology. I'm going to build my own thing. Are you interested? And I was like, no. I'm even though I'm sitting on the sidelines right now, I've left Walmart and ELOQUII. I'm going to go run another consumer brand. Like I thought for sure that was what I was going to go do. And I'd like my specific decision framework, and it was all very well mapped out, like best laid plans, toss them in the trash. And so, but I advised him for most of 2024 as he was building the product, as he was like looking for the first couple of design partners. And as I learned more and more, and to be clear, that is like, I am still very much on a learning journey. I was like, wait a second, if we had ELOQUII had this, like, it would have been a real game changer. Like, how did I not know? And so I just got more and more excited, and I sat in on a few demos where he was sharing the platform, which has come a long way and is, really developed, but he was sharing the early version of the product. And I could see the faces of these CTOs and leaders in technology going, oh my God. And I was like, oh, there's there. Like, this is just, okay, so it's not a consumer business and I have no idea what I'm doing, but now I've just got to do it. Like, it just is, it's here. like rip the Band-Aid off, go for it.
And, I think it was a real kind of full circle moment also in the sense that, you working again with CTO from your first company, working with Female Founders Fund, working with Greycroft.
I know.
Really, really wonderful to kind of see that all come together.
Awesome. Yeah.
But I think, we've talked about this a few times. And, I think one of the interesting aspects of what you're doing is the fact that, you are selling technology and a platform stack to retail CEOs. And that is not easy and requires kind of simplifying what that actual solution is. And so, what has that been like? You're effectively now a salesperson in a sense.
Don't remind me. I know. So I think it's been that has been like the parallel learning journey, right? The one learning journey is really about the technology and how it's architected and what's happening with AI and what retailers and brands care about. And the other has been like, how do you sell something that is effectively a Swiss Army knife and can solve different problems for different businesses in different ways, right? So it's been learning about really doing a lot of discovery and having a more consultative approach, which is actually great because oftentimes both my co-founder and I, depending on who we're talking to in the business, like we have recently sat in your shoes and we like deeply know your pain, which hopefully is nice for them because they know that we really know. And B, I think helps us understand maybe a little bit faster where we could be useful. But it has definitely not been like, we're not selling an e-commerce platform, right? And I think, Ian at Greycroft said in a conversation that the three of us were having, he said something, I'm paraphrasing, but it's great when you're a category creator. It's horrible when you're a category creator. No one knows what to call you. You look different. You are different. Your approach might be a little different. So I would say that we're good on the high level definition. Both for, a business buyer, whether it's a CEO, COO, and for a CTO, CIO, Chief Data Officer, Chief AI Officer. But then when it gets down to brass tacks, we've got to do a good amount of discovery and understanding.
For the CEOs who are listening in who do have e-commerce businesses, what are the top, call it 2 to 3 problems that Ekyam can solve for them? Yeah,
so I would say we're for omni. So you can be just an e-commerce business, and e-commerce will include, Amazon. Right now, D2C basically includes Amazon as a channel and or dropship, wholesale, et cetera, as well as stores. The majority of our clients have stores in as well as a robust e-commerce platform. But I would say the flavor of the problems that I hear about are data everywhere. And when we talk about data, like back in my prior life, when someone would start talking to me about data, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Muppets, and like the Swedish chefs would start talking, and I would just immediately lose the plot and like tune out. But just think of data as information. Data lives in Excel. It lives in your ERP. It lives in Shopify. It lives in Google Sheets. That's data. And the story goes something like, I have data in all of these different places. It's a nightmare. I don't know what to trust. I've got to download from lots of places, build reports. I might have a BI tool, but I don't know if it's right because I've got 3 sources of truth. And it's not synced up. And so that has significant downstream impacts in terms of I might be overspending or underspending in inventory. I might be likely overspending or underspending in marketing because my inventory is not correct. I am not able to make decisions effectively across the business or in a timely manner. So that time to insight can be as important as the accuracy of the decision, because sometimes by the time you get the information, like the questions are relevant. So that is like the flavor, and it's remarkably similar if you are a relatively small business versus an enterprise business.
If you look at the customers that you've worked with to date, What's an example of a brand that you're comfortable talking about in terms of, the impact you've had on their business?
Yeah. So thanks, Payless. They've been very generous with allowing us to talk about the work that we've done for them. And they were our first enterprise client. And, for them, the business impact is that they're getting new systems stood up, which improves the lives of the business teams much faster than if they were working with another solution. So the majority, I would say, like to date, I think this will change. I'm manifesting that this is going to change in 2026. But to date, the overwhelming majority of our work with Payless has been with the CTO's office, right? Those are our contacts, those are our buyers, and we are, I hope, effectively making their lives a lot easier for a lower total cost of ownership. But the downstream impact for the business is that they know where their inventory is. It makes sense. These systems that they wanted to upgrade no longer were going to take a year to upgrade. It was going to take 3 months to upgrade because we were able to pull a lot of the logic out. So that's an example. That has felt really nice to be able to deliver on a promise.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you're describing sounds so basic, but there are so many disparate systems and tools that
Excel.
Yeah.
Excel.
And who is in charge of kind of making that all come together? Usually no one.
Usually no one, because oftentimes the problem isn't fully mapped and scoped and recognized. Oftentimes, to the degree that it is, it ends up in the technology team's roadmap. And my experience with the technology team's roadmap, and we had at ELOQUII, I will say, we had incredible CTOs. We had CTOs who way punched above the size of our business, who had worked at Amazon and Microsoft and, Quidsy and all of these different places. But we would look at that technology roadmap and it would start off green with a little yellow. And then it would be a lot of yellow. And then it would just be red, like the color of your sweater, red. And so trying to find efficient and effective ways to solve business problems, that's all the technology team. I would say prior to AI, they really served to enable the business, the growth, OpEx leverage, whatever the strategies were for the year. And you get a lot of incoming quote unquote fire if you're a technology leader. And so oftentimes standardizing and normalizing data and providing that single source of truth is just but we've been doing it this way for so long. We've got these other shiny objects that the CEO wants done. So we're going to go get that done. Which is probably what I would do if I were in their shoes.
Yeah, no, it's very familiar and I've heard it, across the board. We'll be right back, but first, a quick word from JP Morgan. JP Morgan supports businesses on their journeys from seed to scale. Whether you're in the early days or strategizing your exit, JP Morgan has tailored tools to provide personalized guidance at every stage of growth. And with unmatched reach across industries and markets, JP Morgan can help founders scale with confidence. Find out about how JP Morgan helps founders at jpmorgan.com/grow-without-limits. JP Morgan is the bank of the innovation economy. So, I think one of the interesting facets of Ekyam versus ELOQUII is that for you as a CEO, in many ways, the pace of the business is very different, right? So when you think about a typical e-commerce business, you, as you said earlier, you put in the marketing dollars, you're getting the growth. You put in the marketing dollars, you're getting the growth. And here, slightly different story. So long sales cycles, creating a category, which is not easy, is great, but also horrible.
Yes.
And so what's a muscle that you've really had to learn to develop, kind of now reflecting on the last 6 months of getting this off the ground?
I would say, so it's a different flavor of the same muscle that I would have used at ELOQUII, which I always called the get comfortable being uncomfortable muscle. Like you're doing things you've never done. You have no idea. Like it sounds logical, but we'll see. And having to lead people when you've never, like you're charting, you're like moving into uncharted territory. With Ekyam, it is a similar like get comfortable being uncomfortable and get comfortable being uncomfortable with a pace that your body and your mind is not used to. And that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of work. Like there's a lot of work, right? Our whole organization is AI engineers, data scientists, developers, like, InfoSec, blah, blah, blah. And so there's definitely a lot of work for me to do, but, and I'm very like self-motivated, but at ELOQUII, the pace sometimes was frenetic. Like I felt like I was constantly trying to crawl out of some dark pit in terms of the workload. And with Ekyam, it is like eat what you kill. Like it. So I'm self-motivated. It can feel, I heard someone describe it to me as like sleepy, which maybe I'll go with that. So getting a mindset that's comfortable with that has been tricky.
And tell us a little bit more about that. So, when you say sleepy, for example, what is that? Because ultimately, all businesses are really driving towards revenue at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And with ELOQUII, you could put money against building that revenue. In this case, you are selling somewhat of an unproven product, and I think that that marketing kind of strategy has also evolved, and you've kind of learned what resonates, what doesn't resonate. So, what has that experience been like?
I mean, one of the things that is like common sense is that people work with people they trust and like, right? So hopefully, I know I'm trustable. Hopefully, I'm also likable. So I think also, just like at ELOQUII, there was very much a natural seasonal cadence to the business. Like, right now is the Super Bowl for retail. Right now is not the Super Bowl for selling SaaS that touches the integration or application layer, right? It is like freeze, don't talk to them. You're kind of an idiot if you do. So I think that's been a learning. Both of those has been learnings. Yeah.
And in terms of who you pitch to, who you sell to, can you describe the customer profile a little bit?
Yeah, I would say there's two primary customer profiles at this point. One is the technology organization, right? Because ultimately, they may understand, they may need this just to solve technology problems that are sort of like foundational. They may also already know there's a business problem that the platform can solve. So that's one. The other is even more than the CEO, it is the COO and sometimes analytics and data. So those are sort of the emerging profiles.
And when you think about, we're now in this somewhat of a, fast-paced shift, I think, from where we are today from an AI perspective to, I think, the future where we're moving more agentic.
Yeah.
And that's obviously going to have a big impact on retail overall. And so how are you viewing that through the Ekyam lens, if at all?
It's great for us. I mean, first of all, we're an AI native platform. So we were built and our model and our data standard has been trained on one of the LLMs, and we continue to update it. But if you believe in the promise of agentic commerce, right? And you believe in the promise, so let's think about it in two facets. One, customers will have agents performing actions for them, right? Ordering, returning, reviewing, filing chargebacks, canceling, et cetera, et cetera. We will have agents making that whole process more efficient. If you are a business operator, you will also have agents creating purchase orders, allocating inventory, changing pricing, holding orders, expediting orders, right? And so Ekyam sits in the world of the latter, right? And in order for that to work, it is all about your data. And that is what we do, right? And so as this picture of the world of the retail operator becomes clearer and clearer and more of a reality, what Ekyam has been designed to solve becomes essential.
As you think about Ekyam, over the course of the next few years, obviously, again, going back to ELOQUII, you were building more of a traditional kind of retail organization, in a sense, e-commerce organization. So you have your marketing, sales, tech, etc. With Ekyam, I think, similar to most AI companies, you think about it differently.
Mm-hmm.
The team size is smaller, the needs of the business are different. So what is that kind of compare and contrast in your head?
I mean, I recently just hired or brought on a part-time consultant who is helping me, and she's amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a buddy. Like I'm in the lonely island. So it feels, and my co-founder manages a team. Like he has the people.
Tell us about his team.
His team is developers. They are AI scientists or AI engineers. They are data scientists. We have, InfoSec. We have a writer, and they are offshore, and he starts his days at 4:30 with them. I will say by 4:30 p.m., he is not someone that you can really have a conversation with. But so he has got a lot of the burden of the team, and I am more sort of like a lone ranger. And when I think about what is the team that I need and I build over time, I cannot wait to fire myself as the primary salesperson. Cannot wait. Any takers, please? My email is, and we will have solutions engineers, and we may have a marketer. I don't know. I think we're trying to be very considerate and intentional about what do we need? Like, where's the human really important and where is it not? I think for our approach, because it's consultative, humans play. They play big here. Yeah.
So there's been, I was reading an article about this earlier point that you mentioned, which is consultative sales, right? Where you're seeing actually quite a few AI platforms really have someone come and sit within a company they're selling into to really understand, what are the pain points and use that as the primary sales mechanism. How have you guys thought about that?
We haven't developed yet like a formal audit, right? In part because we're not necessarily revenue related, and it can feel a little funny to talk about OpEx, right? We can do a TCO comparison between us and another solution, but it comes out that really the consultative approach and the diagnosis of problems comes out in those first 1, 2, potentially 3 calls, where it's very collaborative of the business getting a little bit more of a flavor of what we do and so what we're doing for existing clients, and understanding where we could deliver value, especially as they're marching towards really starting to build an AI roadmap. And so that's been what that process looks like at this point in time. I think over time we'll probably build a more sort of systematic audit process.
Obviously a big part of your job, as you mentioned, is founder-led sales. And, I'm always impressed and surprised by some of the kind of more hacky approaches that people have taken in order to kind of get attention. I think about Christy at Wagmo, where, at a sales conference, they had a whole booth full of puppies.
Oh my gosh.
And you can imagine, response to that was incredible. And so is there anything kind of hacky that you've tried that...
So funny you say this. So we just booked our booth for Shop Talk, and literally the conversation I had with the sales rep for Shop Talk, which if you know, it is basically the largest, aside from NRF, the largest retail, more front-end focused, but largest retail conference in the United States. And literally the question I asked the sales rep was, is it big enough for puppies? And he was like, you're not there yet? You have to spend X. I was like, I'm not spending X. But what about baby goats? And he was like, also, no. So what I think we're going to settle on is like nips, because a little bit classy, but a lot trashy.
Yeah.
And then cake, which leads me to for Christmas this year, for the holidays, we gave our existing clients, I think almost all of them, the Tom Cruise cake from Gold Belly.
Oh.
Because Tom Cruise gives it to his VIPs. So I was like, you are our VIP. You get. So they're existing clients. Like I'm not.
Yeah. No, but that's great. That's great. I think, people, particularly, founder-led sales, you're always thinking, looking for inspiration and trying to learn from, what others are trying out. So.
I think puppies is clutch. Yeah. Someone else said to get at this was actually, I think Natalie from WinkyLux, she's like, when you guys are at Shop Talk, you've got to get a suite, and then you've got to have puppies in the suite with reflexology. And I was like, this feels borderline unhygienic.
But also brilliant.
But also amazing.
When you think about company culture, and kind of learnings from ELOQUII and past experiences, what is it that you are looking to create within Ekyam?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this earlier this morning. At ELOQUII, we developed our core values late, I would say, and thanks to our amazing former CMO. But once we had them, they were like the lifeblood of the company. The whole company got involved in developing them. I remember every word and everything that we wrote about them. And one of the things that's immediately popped for Ekyam, core values and mission and vision they're not a marketing exercise. They're kind of like a lifeblood exercise, and they have to be, to my way of thinking, very authentic. And I would say the one that immediately popped to the surface for Ekyam is transparency. Both in the product, we give you a data integrity dashboard. You see every single data flow, every single one. You see every single error. We have put on our website in our documentation, we have published our entire data standard. It is, the whole idea is that it is open kimono, because that's been one of the main complaints. Black box, right? The other thing that we do is each of our clients have a partial data engineer or developer, assigned to them in real time, Slack channels, Teams channels. There's a problem, they're getting immediate responses. I also think about it, and you and I have discussed this, pricing. But let me tell you, it is a lot more transparent and straightforward to price a piece of clothing than it is to price software. It is very black box. And I don't like that. I think it's a little unfair to the other side. And so I think about that when building pricing proposals. How can I just tell you what it is and why we're doing it the way that we're doing it? I wish I had gotten that in my prior life.
Yeah, no, I love transparency. It covers so many aspects of what you're building, but also from a team perspective is super powerful. So, the 2% is really all about, obviously venture dollars that go towards women. And I'm curious, as you think about Ekyam and your experience kind of leading the organization, what is an operating choice that you've made that has directly impacted, whether it's a woman-led business or a vendor that you've worked with? Anything come to mind?
For Ekyam? 60%, 70% of our clients are female-led.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Unintended.
Yeah.
But I think network effect. And at all of our clients, we have female stakeholders. Yeah. And on our developer team, we have several women, which I guess is expected or maybe unexpected. Yeah. But
yeah, no, I love that. So, this season's theme is reinvention. And, we all know that stepping back into it is not for the faint of heart. And so what is a piece of advice that you would give to founders that are thinking about their next move?
Gosh, don't think too much about it or you might not do it, right? Like just rip the Band-Aid and, Nike's got that little slogan, just do it. Um, and also like, I think one thing that I appreciate much more than I did when I was doing this the first and second time was that I felt like if I weren't working until literally I bled, I was not doing it right. And I look back on that and I was like, so many of those hours I spent working were useless, were futile, diminishing margins of return. I could barely keep my eyes open. I had to redo it. And so now I'm just maybe a lot more or a little bit more aware of like, you've hit your limit. Like step away for 20 minutes for whatever it is, like have it go outside, go for a quick walk, and it's fine, right? Like the sky does not fall. Yeah.
So we're now going to move into a rapid fire round and just answer with whatever comes to mind first. What's a reset ritual for you at the end of a really busy day?
Exercise.
What kind?
It's been my steady date since I was 13. Like it can be a walk, a class, an elliptical, weightlifting, just gotta move, gotta sweat.
Any current favorite?
I've been spending a lot of time on an elliptical machine, banging out text emails and Slacks.
What is one female-founded company or a female founder that you want to spotlight?
So I just said this too. I just listened to Reese Witherspoon on a podcast talking about Hello Sunshine, and I don't think I realized like the journey that she had building that, and I was re-inspired by Reese. Let's say.
Right. I know you are a big traveler and love, nice vacations.
Sure do.
Anything on your bucket list for 2026?
Greece.
And last but not least, what is something that only your close friends would know about you?
So my close friends call me Dr. Chase because in my spare time, I love to read medical research and stay up on the latest and greatest medical research that has not yet made it to America's standard of care, because that is a 17-year gap. And for some reason, I always feel like I'm the canary in the coal mine. Like I go through everything first. And so if I can be a resource, I really, really love it.
Well, maybe that's going to be number 4 for you.
Anu.
Amazing. Well, it has been so great to have you back on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And great to see you.
I'm so grateful to be an ongoing member of the FFF fam.
Oh, yeah. Well, we love having you.
That's a wrap, y'all.
That was our conversation with Mariah Chase. We hope you enjoyed learning about her journey from fashion leadership into her most recent venture, transforming retail with AI. If you enjoyed this conversation, please don't forget to subscribe to the 2% on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.